Salutations, frequenters of YouTube. I am back, and I have gotten up to more stuff, more viewing, more pop culture taking in, which is my favorite thing to do. Um, Last weekend, I think it was on the Sunday night, me and my son James went to the movies, and around the dinner time, and had popcorn and M&Ms for dinner, which we plan on doing again tonight, actually. That's besides the point, but you'll hear about that later. But what we watched last weekend was the Teen Titans Go to the Movies movie. My son James is a massive fan of the Teen Titans Go TV series, and of course I watch it when he's watching it as well, and it's super hilarious. If you haven't watched it, it's just like it's total ridiculous humor, featuring five heroes from the DC universe, which are led by Robin. So if you've seen this series before, it's the Teen Titans live in a tower in a place called Jump City, and they think they're a lot better than they really are, and they try and defend Jump City against all sorts of villainy and stuff. So to start the movie, there's this this giant villain called Balloon Man, who attacks the city, and they go out to stop him, and he has no idea who they are, so he inquires as to who they are, and then they go off on this crazy dance rap routine introducing their team to Balloon Man. And meanwhile, they're so distracted, Balloon Man just goes about ravaging the city while they're doing all this, and then the Justice League shows up and deals with the threat. Afterwards, they talk to the Titans and basically tell them that they're a joke and nobody takes them seriously and stuff. And then Robin's really pissed off, and he wants to be taken seriously and stuff. So he starts searching for ways for the Teen Titans to become bona fide superheroes, and the what's happening with the superheroes in this movie at the time is everybody, if you're a serious superhero, you get a movie made about you. And so they go to the premiere they sneak into the premiere of Batman's new movie, and during the trailers, Robin thinks that one of them's going to be a trailer for a new Robin movie, and he gets laughed out of the theater by all the superheroes because they know he's a joke, and he goes and sulks. So then he comes up with a plan to first, they figure if they can find an arch villain, an arch nemesis, will make them serious superheroes, and hopefully get a movie made and get them on the board. So they interrupt a guy named Slade, who's performing a robbery, and try to confront him and practically beg him to become their arch nemesis. And he's like, "Who are you guys?" Just like Balloon Man was. That is a failed attempt. So then they go to Hollywood and talk to this director who's directing all these superhero movies, Jade Wilson, I think her name was. And Robin confronts her, and he demands a movie be made about him. And she says, the only reason I would make a movie about the Teen Titans is if you were the only superheroes around. So they get this bright idea to take their time machines, go back in time, and interrupt every superhero's origins story. And so they do so, and when they get back to the regular time after doing all that, the city's in chaos, the supervillains have run amok, and it's basically the end of the world. So they realize, oh, that was a mistake. So then they have to go and correct everything and make everything right, and in the process, maybe become heroes. So it was really cool. It was a really funny movie. If you're a fan of the show, it's basically just a continuation. They could have taken a bunch of episodes in a row, written them, and there's your movie, right? Like, it's just so consistent. All the voices are the same. It's really good. And there's a couple really funny parts that I like. Stan Lee shows up and makes a cameo in a DC movie, right? And it's really funny. And then the other thing was when they're doing the ruining everybody's origin story. They're doing Superman, Green Lantern, all that stuff. And then one of them is like, there's these four little turtles crawling towards this green puddle of ooze, and they just pick them up and turn them around, and then they walk back into the sewers. So it's funny, they throw in a TMNT reference, even though they have nothing to do with Marvel, DC, or anything, right? So that was pretty cool. It's a good movie, worth a watch. Maybe not going to the theaters like we did, but definitely worth a watch when you can get to it. The next thing was I finished reading this book a short while ago, Star Wars Battlefront 2 Inferno Squad. So this story takes place right during the battle of Yavin and the destruction of the first Death Star, and it focuses on this Imperial pilot. She's like super pilot, named Iden Versio, and she leaves the Death Star out into her TIE fighter and fights in the battle, and her jaw drops when you know the Imperial's indestructible super weapon is blown out of the sky, and she is one of the very few survivors of that whole ordeal. She crash lands on Yavin, sneaks her way off, and when she gets back into Imperial hands, she is debriefed, and then her father is an admiral in the Imperial fleet, Garrick Versio, and he gets in touch with her and wants a meeting with her. And when she gets there, there's 3 other people there, and so he basically explains to them that they are the best of the best, and he is forming a squad for them to do the jobs that nobody else is capable of. And after the destruction of the Death Star, the tiniest little detail in the Death Star that was left unattended to, or left exposed, I guess, by Galen Erso, led to the whole destruction of a space station. That one tiny exhaust vent, right? So they want to lock down everything. Nothing left to chance. Everything dealt with. So joining Iden is her friend Gideon Hask, who's also a super Imperial loyalist and a great pilot. Then there's Del Miko, who is a really likable guy, a good leader, and very good mechanically. And then the last member is Sane Marana. She's a small little diminutive woman with Imperial intelligence, and she's good at forging documents, that sort of thing. So that makes up this Inferno Squad. And their first number of missions are basically dealing with kind of Imperial dissenters like Moffs and higher-ups that are kind of taking advantage of their positions, and they kind of set those situations to rights. But their big opportunity comes when they are planted to become hooked up with the remains of Saw Gerrera's kind of rebels. Even though Saw Gerrera was killed and destroyed, as were a lot of his supporters when the Death Star blew up Jeddah City, there's still a number of people left out there who picked up on his message and want to take the Empire down and continue on, without him. So that's their whole their main mission in this book, is to infiltrate and kind of bring the whole cell down from the inside and just eliminate that whole threat once and for all. So that's what it's about. And the cool thing is that this book ties into the Star Wars Battlefront 2 video game. So the video game takes place after this, and starts up around the destruction of the second Death Star, and follows their story from there. Whereas this book is kind of more of the origin story of Inferno Squad, how they got put together, how they kind of bonded and became, friendly and did what they did, right? So very cool book. And then the last one is a book called The Gauntlet. It focuses on this girl of Bangladeshi descent, I believe, who is a New Yorker, lived in Queens, and it picks up on her 12th birthday. And she's actually moving from Queens to, I think, Manhattan, maybe some more highfalutin area of New York. And so she's got to make all new friends and stuff like that. So on her 12th birthday, they have a bunch of kids from the neighborhood that she's going to be going to school with come over for a party, and it's super awkward. And she's got this little brother, Ahmad, who's got behavioral issues. And her 2 friends from her old neighborhood are there, but they're acting kind of funny, so it's all kind of weird. So then her Aunt Zora says, "Oh, Farah, go up to your bedroom. I left your present up there." So she goes up there with her 2 friends, Essie, who is this kind of strong-willed, redheaded girl who's very brave and confident, and then her other friend Alex, who is more like kind of tentative and shy but smart. So they go up there to see what she got, and when they unwrap her present, it's this weird board game that looks old and super weird and unique. So they they open it up and they start reading, and it's really weird. It's got like you have to put piles of sand around the board, and then it's got these little avatars that you use to go around the board, but they're kind of faceless and they're made of clay and stuff, and it's all really weird. And Farah gets this bad feeling, right? But then her friends want to continue playing, so they keep going, and then eventually, as they get into this game, the board kind of like there's a big, almost like a tremor in the house, and the board shifts and expands, and things start being really magical and weird. And Farah just wants to stop, but then her brother Ahmad had snuck up to her room and was hiding, and he picks up his avatar and runs onto the board like the instructions said, and suddenly disappears. So he was taken into this board game, which is called the Gauntlet of Blood and Sand or something like that. So then, in the meantime, her aunt had come up to check in on them and see if she liked the present. And when she sees what actually happened, her present was not this board game. It was supposed to be a pile of books, but apparently the board game does what the board game wants. And her Aunt Zora had actually had experience with it as a child as well, and lost one of her friends inside of the game. So Zora and her two friends have no choice but to go inside the game and try and win the game and get her brother out, find her brother and get everybody out. So they get there and they meet everything's weird, and they meet a helpful lady named Madame Nasira, I think her name was, who she kind of tries to help the kids along, but everybody seems really tentative and like they're being watched, right? So then they learn that the person who runs this game is called the Architect, and he basically is everywhere. And he in the game responds to his every whim and his every mood, and nobody has ever won the game. If somebody wins the game is over and everybody's released. That's been sucked in over the years, and everything's set to rights, but nobody has done it. So this is Farah's turn to play the game, and her and her friends have to beat these 3 challenges in order to win the game and escape. So yeah, it's just this kind of rollicking adventure as they try and find her brother and escape the game. And it was cool. I liked the cover of it. That's why I bought it. I never heard of the author or whatever, but definitely worth a read, and I enjoyed it. And I will be back again soon. Bye-bye.